Andy Holloman, board member and chair of the governance committee, calling this meeting to order on August 3rd at 11:01 p.m. AM, sorry. Introductions around the room. We'll start with Mr. Lang on the left.
Marty Lang, Chief Human Resource Officer.
Andy Ratliff, Chief Financial Officer.
Garrett Bryant, Superintendent. Corey Hayes, teacher and Anchorage Education Association President.
Margot Bellamy, school board.
Amanda Foster, executive assistant to the board.
Ellie Lessons, board member.
And do we have anyone connected?
Let me. We have Mike Fleckenstein and Carl.
Are
Carl, I think we need to promote.
I just promoted him. Thank you.
And that would be board member Jacobs.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we'll go to the first item for discussion, which is a review of our board policies 0411, 0500, 0510, 0520, and 0530. I'm trusting anyone that has concerns read those before. Dr. Bell.
Yes, thank you. And I'm really glad that we're getting back to our routine of looking at our policies at least, even if we don't make changes. But in 0411, I think that's our service animal policy. The policy speaks to service animals. Those are animals that are trained to provide a service. It does not speak to comfort and pets. And which is, so my point is, to what extent are we, I don't know, I don't want to say enforcing, but observing the policy. I see random pets in our buildings. They're not service animals. They're not providing a service. They are there for another purpose. Now, if the board wants to have, and the whole intent, I think, behind 411 is to make sure that individuals have a safe learning environment and that environment is free of, that individuals with disabilities can access learning and activities. That also includes kids like my grandson. One of them is fearful of dogs, period. I don't care how sweet and loving and kind they are. But I do see, when I'm in and out of buildings, I see a lot of pets and comfort animals. And I don't know if the administration might not be able to do it today, but maybe give us I'd like to know what are we doing relative to 411 and are we enforcing the policy as it's written? Number one. Number two, if not, do we need to make adjustments? And it's not the kids bringing these, it's an adult issue. Let me make that real clear. It's not the kids bringing their pets to school. It is, it's the adults bringing their fur babies to school. So, and I think that is and from a risk management perspective, where does that put us if something happened to anyone that's in our building, whether that's a visitor, a student, or a staff member. So I don't want to change the policy, but I do want to know to what extent it's being enforced. Are we at risk in any way? And if there are changes, or maybe we need administrative guidelines, because I don't think there are any administrative guidelines attached.
I think that's a good point, and that's something that I can raise with Jim's team in risk management, just to double check whether or not there's an administrative regulation that touches on this. Because we certainly don't want an animal to cause a safety concern, regardless of who bringing it. So I agree, it either needs to be administrative regulation or an adjustment to the policy. I think regulation should be sufficient, but we'll double check.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I did ask Dante Powell and Andrew Ball, our two employee relations specialists, to review this and make sure that there haven't been any updates under ADA as well.
Good.
I didn't get that done for this meeting, but they are taking a look at that. I believe we have a service animal guide that would probably serve as a functioning AR, should be attached to this. So I'll review that as well.
Great.
I can add a little bit of flavor to what you brought up, Margot, in that we have done some servicing of principals on a fairly regular basis to remind them what questions they can ask when a member of the public brings an animal into the building. There is some very specific questions that you can ask and you can't ask around service animals. And so it's probably would be good for us to remind our academic divisions that we do that again. That often happens for experts when we want to bring animals in. When you talk about staff, are you talking about mostly like teachers and stuff wanting to bring in dogs and keep them in the
Teachers,
classroom?
administrators.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, non-service animals, just pets.
yeah,
that
they're
they wanna
pets,
have.
they're pets. I think, the reason we have policy came about probably in 20, I can't remember, but it was in response to an OCR complaint. And so we had to come up with those guidelines that you mentioned, and we had to adjust our policy, which was approved at the time. But I just know that over the last few years, I have observed that it's becoming more and more lax. I know I'm not an anti-animal person. But I have to look at this from for me, it's a 10,000 foot level or higher that we have to look to see. And I don't think, so maybe that's all we need is a refresh and a training. Reminder to people that, what service animals are, what our policy is. And then I'll just leave it up to the superintendent whether or not he feels that there is a need for a revision at some future point, or if administrative guidelines would kind of clarify the policy. So that's the only thing, that's the only, my only comment, that's on 411.
That's right.
Boy, I'm probably gonna open a can of worms, but I just want to clarify. Service animals obviously has a definition and usually a certificate or some type of registry that goes with it, right? Because I know I went through it for my own dog that was at Polaris for 5 years, right? Through Pet Partners. But are you also, like, I just want to, there's service animals, and there was the horse that was at Russian Jack for a long time.
The service
We've done-
animal.
Yeah, we've done lots of things. So, and then there's critters. Critters being extending everything else, right? And I just want to, I want to
Pets
clarify.
are, maybe
I know.
maybe, yeah. So critters would
it's-
be like
it's
pets.
Well, there's two separate things going, right? So whether I have like birds in my room, I had parakeets for a long time, hamsters. Over the course of my career, I had fish. I'm just,
Right, but
it's a
they're
double.
usually enclosed in a container, right? A hamster should be, yeah, and so,
I'm just saying. And I guess I'm reaching out to the whole community here.
yeah,
We probably need to, I mean, they play a
agree.
really important role in schools, right?
They do.
With kids and stuff.
Yeah,
So I just want
and this is absolutely not that. The policy speaks to
We're talking about
animals who
bigger.
are trained to provide a service. If
And
a
everybody-
parakeet is trained to provide a service for an individual
I'm not
with a
asking.
disability,
Yeah.
then that would put them in that category. But if they're in the room and they're providing an academic if they're there for an academic purpose, then, they should be allowed to be there with the proper safety protocols. So I just think we need to revisit the policy and make sure it is in alignment with what we're actually allowing people to do in our building. And you're right, critters included.
Well, that's why I'm kind of, that's why I'm kind of, pets is extremely general.
It is.
Yeah, and so I just want to,
It is.
and I'm obviously a huge advocate for
Oh, yeah.
critters when they are
Yeah.
properly maintained, cared for, safe,
Absolutely.
everything else. So, I mean, we've all known, right? That they can play a really important part.
Absolutely. And
For our
that's
students.
not, and I don't think the policy is locking those out. I think that the policy is, what constitutes a service animal in the context of individuals with disabilities and or other kinds of limitations.
Note for the record that member Wilson has joined us. And
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to echo my support for critters who do academic and social and emotional work in classrooms. So I support them as learning
Oh, absolutely.
devices, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word. But in the policy, it is a little bit fuzzy where it says service animal does not include an animal whose primary work or task is to provide emotional support, well-being, comfort, and companionship. A lot of people do consider
And this was
those
written
animals.
pre-SEL.
So I guess
Yeah.
I was really
Yes, yeah.
eager to see revised guidelines.
I'm guessing your son said.
I mean, to that point, when I was a principal, we had a student
Not just my
suicide,
grandson.
but the chaplain
Yeah,
brought in.
not only that,
comfort
he's got
dogs.
allergies.
That was
and
amazing
one
to
has
watch a
phobia,
group of
one
high
has
school
that.
students sit around that animal and cry and breathe. And it was.
I'd be supportive of
very
investing in a whole fleet of golden retrievers for ASD. I think that was my personal stance.
I'll note, I counted the pony in the hall.
Oh,
Small
yeah.
pony, but,
I actually put booties on one at a school one time.
and the diamond, the kids wanted pets in the classroom, and we just live trapped some mice,
Yeah,
which simply distinguished them from the mice that live there versus the ones in the aquarium.
so, and I think if animals are in our buildings, they should be for academic and or academic,
Service academic.
service,
and social.
academic and social emotional purposes, yeah. And right now, that's not clear, and I think we can do it through administrative regulations, but I'm gonna leave it up to the superintendent and his staff.
So, ask Ms. Foster to put this, before 11 on the agenda for a month from now.
Okay.
And we can push that off if more time is needed. But it sounds like in writing the regulations, it might also call for some changes in policy. We'd be glad to consider it then as well. So, any other comments on this topic? Seeing none, any comments on any of the other policies up for routine review?
Scroll to the next, what's the next one, 510?
And I will add that, these policies can be amended at any
It's-
time. This is just going to take a moment to give them a special law.
I didn't have any others unless anybody else did.
I had a question on 510
510,
and do we have one? Did one of these take place last year? I simply tried to Google it, but I didn't, this was nothing that I found. I know that Deed has report cards,
I think
but
that's,
that's their prerogative to produce. But this is a district produced, and I vaguely remember some sort of a shiny, colorful publication when I first onboarded. So that would have been a couple of years ago, but I don't know that I could, I couldn't locate it online if there was one. And it also struck me, just reading this, that a lot of the goal monitoring that we do is the sort of thing that would be part of a report card, but it also seems a little bit silly to duplicate things.
right.
So I don't have a specific concise recommendation right now, other than that I was scratching my head looking for whether or not this actually exists. And maybe thinking that we could do a better job of tying up our goal monitoring reports with a bow on an annual basis.
And, so and I'll go back and look, I remember lessons, I think in life, because the state has not always done district report cards. And when they started that, I want to say, I think it was a year before I came on board, maybe it was 2017. But when they started that, the board at the time pivoted it to put that information on our site as opposed to us reduplicating the
Okay.
state report card.
So
So,
I guess, I mean,
yeah. So
that's pretty clear. It says that we're gonna prepare
It
and
does, so
disseminate
that,
something.
so then either we're gonna do that or we're gonna change this.
Right.
To say, I mean, that we're going to pivot to
And,
state.
and I think us having ownership over it
Yeah.
is probably in our best interest, right? I mean, especially if you were to tailor it towards, well, these are our goals. This is where we are with progress towards our goals. you know, over the gifted year.
Mhm.
I think that allows us to tell our story
Yeah.
a lot more reliably.
Yeah.
Than the state. I mean, thinking about, you know, what is our story? Well, part of our story is the maintenance work that happened, you know, over the summer. There are a lot of stories in ASD. So I think there's a lot of value to us owning, and this is like also part of, you know, an expanded communications sort of.
Yeah, it used to
Program.
be a handout. I think
It-
we sent it
it
to
was
every
a-
single family.
It was a shiny handout, and it may not need to go just to parents. I think
Right.
that there's, I mean, I just saw a recent study saying that it's like that schools are doing pretty great. It's people who don't have kids in
access
school
to it.
systems
Yeah,
that are a lot more skeptical of schools.
yeah.
So I think that there is a lot of value to having a report card. I don't exactly know what it needs to look like, but I guess for the purpose of this, for this meeting, I'd say maybe let's hold on to it and continue the discussion. And maybe hear from administration next time about what you guys would envision in.
So, yeah, I'm trying to think who's here that would have been a part of the, I think, in the administration. Well, Kirsten probably would have been here. I'm just trying to figure out who would, because I think it came from assessment and evaluation.
In
I think
collaboration,
that's where it came from,
with communication.
with communication, yeah, right.
And I
So-
suspect that through the pandemic and a really small communications department, they may not have carried that forward. But I remember that publication you're referencing.
But I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of.
Morning. Morning, welcome. So might I recommend that we take another look at, as the superintendent and staff, take another look at 510 as well, and come back with an update. I agree with Member Lessons that in light of our new goals and guardrails and our monitoring process, giving end of year report, or not just to our families, but to the community to be, and not just rely on the state's information, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
These are what our community's goals are.
Yeah.
This is what the district has done.
And it can be
to work
focused
towards
on
it.
our goals and guardrails.
Right, and you can talk about how we've allocated funds in support of each of the goals, each of the guardrails.
Okay.
For the communication.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
And note for the record that we've been joined by Scary Drummond, who's a former member of this body and a legislator that always prioritized public education for you. So thank you for coming today.
And Pat is now on and he has his hand up.
And member Higgins has joined us online.
We done with that? Are we gonna pivot or are we gonna finish this? Oh, Pat has his hand up.
Oh.
It might be
It's
this.
not moving.
Yeah, Mr.
Pat,
Higgins.
you need to move over to panelists.
Hello. Yep.
Let's go ahead and move to item 2 real quick. That's CWA update in August.
He's on there now.
Okay.
Okay, that would be Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So
Move on to item 2.
at President Bellamy's request, and in conjunction with the board adoption of board policy 3311.2, I sought about making suggestions for President Bellamy to name members of the SCWA review team that will comprise the team for this academic year. The SCWA review team is comprised of one member of designated by the administration. Dr. Bryan indicated that choice would be Mr. Dave Whiting. My recommendations to President Bellamy include a representative from industry would be Alicia Amberg with AJC, a representative from the building trades, which would be Bronson Fry, who is their current chair, and then 2 members representing the board. My recommendations to President Bellamy include, as chair, Pat Higgins, and the second person would be Andy Holloman. The board policy is written in such a way that we can, and President Bellamy, as the person naming the members, can choose committee members to replace board members, positions potentially. In my conversation with President Bellamy, I suggested that for at least the first year, while we navigate this new policy, which is a significant one, it might be wise to have board members directly involved to witness areas of improvement in current board policy, as well as any potential revisions we might wish to make, around this time next year. With that said, I think next steps in the process, should President Bellamy agree with the recommendations, would be to officially state as much. And then should those recommendations carry, the chair of the committee, Member Higgins, would work with Mr. Whiting to facilitate scheduled meetings, which should start this month. I think one of the first orders of business should be to review the master template, ensure that the review team is in agreement on the composition. If there's any changes that need to be made, those should come back before governance and before the full board if need be, and then engage in the work as outlined in board policy 3311.2. So just wanted to offer that quick update. Would be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Right. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Jacobs. I accept the report and the recommendations. We are with the launch of, actually, I think if the team gets together, the review team gets together and get organized this month, they will probably be launching in September. So that would probably be a clarification. I also confirmed that the administration's, Mr. Whiting will be the administration's recommendation on this review team. For those of you who might, you might want to go back and reread 3311.2.